Hey everybody, how are we? Welcome along to WD18, the Watford fan channel with myself, Jacob Culshaw, and a very, very excited Sam Ucko after his day yesterday. Sam, for the people who don't know, and if you're not following Sam, make sure you do at Sam_Ucko. Sam, how was your Sunday? I keep forgetting it's Monday, Bank Holiday Monday. But how was your Sunday, mate, at Wembley?
Yeah, I can kind of relate to you on the days. I feel like without football, sort of because you have Saturday every week and it's like, you know what day it is because of that. And I've sort of lost all bearing of time as well, particularly with the bank holiday. But unbelievable day out yesterday at Wembley, playoff final, thanks to Jameson, who brought me along. Probably the loudest I've ever heard a football stadium. Completely sold out, Leeds and Southampton fans, ridiculously loud. A great game of football, and Southampton I thought deserved it on the day to go up, albeit I think Leeds will be really disappointed not to secure it during the season, because getting 90 plus points not going up is probably quite disappointing. But got to see quite a few special guests, including Mr. Troy Deeney, Emma Saunders as well, ex-Watford Stadium announcer. So yeah, fantastic day out, and I'll give them a quick plug now, but make sure to get yourself some Jameson if you can.
Love it. Did you obviously it's 18 over, right, Sam, for Jameson?
18 and over, yes, of course.
18 over for Jameson. Wendover says, Greg, good to see you. Look very smart yesterday, Sam. Jack's gone with evening, lads. Have we hit that evening point? I don't know if 4:30 counts as evening. I feel like
I'm not counting now as evening.
What's the sort of when does it turn to an evening for you, Sam? I'm very much maybe a 6 onwards.
I'm a 6 o'clock man. Yeah, 6 o'clock, 6:30. At that point, it's evening. But I'm not having 4:30. Sorry, Jack.
Sorry, Jack. We're not having that. Sam, you spoke to Troy and he said that he's watching the channel. Is that correct?
Yeah, Troy is a watcher of the channel. Yeah, no, that was a bit surreal to hear as well. So good to see Troy. I think he was on pundit duty with Sky with Neil Warnock and another ex-Watford player and Joey McAnuff as well. So yeah, no, a fantastic day, and here's hoping that Watford can be there come this time next season.
Do you know what? It's a really good point you mentioned there, Sam, about like Leeds' season in general, because the fact they got to 90 points, the fact they finished third, I do think there's definitely something in the team finishing third who miss out on the second automatic promotion spot, not doing well in the playoffs. I just feel psychologically it must be so hard to pick yourself up after getting that close. I mean, we experienced it, didn't we, under Zola, where we had the Ross McCormack, Jack Bonham game, where he's missed the catch, and then we've dropped out of automatics on the final day, and then we've had to get ourselves back up for the Leicester game. We would have had that moment, to be fair, if it wasn't for Ross McCormack with that lob, and then we go to the final. I think there is definitely a pattern with those teams. We'll see next season. Hopefully Watford could be in and around the mix of the playoffs, but I'm not totally convinced at this moment in time. But Sam, does this change even more if Edu Kayembe moves on from the football club? Because from what we're reading, and this is very much sort of the news in and around France at the moment, is Edu Kayembe's, Ipswich have opened talks with Edu Kayembe's representatives about the possibility of signing the midfielder. Now, this is from RDC, who are pretty big in France. Sam, just initially on this, what was your kind of just initial reaction about Kayembe leaving, and then Kayembe leaving to Ipswich of all teams?
Yeah, I know. It's a really interesting one. Just before that as well, Wendover makes the point here when we lost that playoff final that blessing in disguise, we weren't ready. I do think that having those extra 2 years in the Championship really benefited us. We were able to get the stadium ready, able to get the team ready a bit more as well. So yeah, that was, I think, gave us the platform in a way to have a brilliant 5-6 years in the Premier League. But I was shocked when I saw that Kayembe news, to be honest with you. Interesting that his performances have been picked up. Interestingly, potentially he caught the eye with his shot that nearly went in away at Portman Road in the last minute. But yeah, I like Kayembe. I said it on a couple of streams. I thought he was a shout for player of the season, albeit at times his form did sort of come and go. He had a couple of injuries, but at the same time, I am very surprised the Premier League club are interested in him. I doubt it would be to start, but even then, it's surprising, I think.
Why are you surprised, Sam?
I think there were probably better options out there, to be honest with you. Like I said, I think his Watford form, he's definitely had his best time in a Watford shirt this season, but I don't think he's shown enough over the 3 years or so that he's been at Watford to suggest that he's a Premier League player. I think what he does well, he does it really well, particularly, and we've spoken about it, keeping it simple. I think at times he breaks up play really well. But other than that, I'm not too sure if he would be cut out for the physical side of the Premier League and also the pace of the game. I do really like Kayembe. I think he's good for the Championship, but I just don't think he's Premier League quality at all.
Yeah, we saw Kayembe in the Premier League, didn't we, under Ranieri when he first came in that January 2022 transfer window, and then obviously playing under Roy Hodgson in the end that season. And I think the one thing you say about Kayembe during his time at Watford is I don't think we've probably until recently found his best position. I mean, he started kind of as a 6, then moved into an 8. He played in Belgium for UPenn as a 8/10, really. So he's kind of floated around a number of roles during his time at Watford. If you look at some of his stats from last season, Edu Kayembe, he played 36 matches, started 28 of them in all competitions, scoring 5 goals and providing 2 assists. His contract situation at this moment in time has 2 years left on it. It expires in June 2026. He's 25 years old. So when you put that all into the mix, Sam, how much would you value Edu Kayembe at this moment in time? And then we'll throw some of the comments over you because we've had a few shouts about how much he's worth. But let us know in the comment section. Sam, how much is Edu Kayembe worth to you?
You offer me 3 million plus, I take it. I think 25-year-old, and I think we could upgrade with that money, particularly with we're going to have to be using the loan market, and potentially if we are looking at sort of the higher end of the Premier League, Man United, even Everton, Aston Villa, potentially there's going to be some sort of wages there as well that we're going to have to free up. I think without doubt Watford are going to have to sell players, and we are definitely, I think, going to lose one of Kone or Yasser Asprilla, maybe even both. But I think we are going to have potentially a few more surprising exits as well during the window. Imran Louza will probably go as well. We've mentioned a few names on the keep loan sale, so make sure to have a look at that. But yeah, it wouldn't shock me if Kayembe left, unfortunately. But I'd take anything more than 3 million, I think.
So in terms of his valuation, if we look at what Watford bought him for from KAS UPenn back in that January 22 window, they on transfer marks is very just transfer marks. It's 4.7 million euros. So you're looking at around £3.5 million roughly. I don't think Pozzo is going to sell any less for that. In terms of valuation, I agree with you, Sam. I think about 3 millions probably his ability.
Yeah.
But when you put into the mix sort of what we paid for him, the fact he's only 25, which isn't that old, really. I mean, is it for especially for a midfielder? I think Watford will be looking at 4 to 5 million for him. In order, because I just don't think Gino's going to sell for less than he bought for, if I'm honest. And if Ipswich really want him, then they'll stump up the fee. I think that's probably how he would be looking at it.
Yeah, it's interesting because my argument would be I don't think we get 4 or 5 million because, again, I think we're probably looking at his peak price as well at the moment, which would roughly be 3.5 million. I don't think teams would pay over that for what he offers. And I also think that we'd probably cash in on that because, like I say, I think that's probably his peak price. I don't see him necessarily, I don't want to sound harsh, but I don't really see him getting better. I'm not sure what you think with that. I think he is probably a £3.5 million player. I don't see much more to suggest that he isn't that.
Yeah, I agree with you, Sam, in the sense I don't think he'd dramatically improve. I felt there was he dramatically improved when he first joined to maybe when he started playing last season. I thought the back end of last season he played some of his best football probably in a Watford shirt, and then this season he's had runs of games where you're like, this is a solid player for us. I guess the question is, does he get into your best team? If you sort of listed out the best Watford team for next season, and let's just assume it's the sort of formation that Tom Cleverley's been playing towards the back end of last season, Sam, with that 3 at the back, would he fit in that?
God, it's been so long since I watched Watford. So remind me, who else are the options there? So Ishmael Kone would start.
Ishmael Kone, well, Livermore's gone now.
Yeah.
Tom Dele-Bashiru. It depends if you're having a midfield too, doesn't it, as well?
Yeah,
who else have we got in there? Not loads of options.
Yeah, the squad is down to its bare bones, and that's the concern. Because I think one thing that Kayembe has offered, which I've really liked, is I think he's just a useful player to have in the Championship, coming in and out the team. I think he's capable of playing both 2 and a 3. I think he's slightly better playing in a 3. But I think without doubt, if he does go, we are going to have to replace him because of how thin the squad is. And we are going to lose other players throughout this window as well.
Yeah, one of the players that Greg wants us to replace, let's say Kayembe was to go, is Hector Kyprianou from Peterborough, and someone who I really rate as well. He's a top player, someone who can play centre-back and in midfield as well. Someone to definitely look out for going for, whether he joins Watford or not. Some of the valuations, Lee says £10 million, accept it or leave it. iBedler says transfer mark says 3 million, so at least 4 million. Surin, good to see you, mate. 4.25 minimum. Duncan's 1.52 million in terms of this is the valuation of Kayembe. Ed says 2 to 3. Alfie says I would take 5+ million. So there's a real range of. I think we're kind of is it the medium?
Yeah, exactly. We're looking at between 1 to 5, I think, from what people are saying.
Okay, we'll see how this one develops. Just some other details from that article from who was it? From RDC Sport. They mentioned the fact that obviously he joined Watford in 2022. Negotiations have already started between the board at Ipswich and Kayembe's representative. As we say, his contract runs out until June 2026. He was supposed to be in the Congo squad, wasn't he, for the African Cup of Nations? That didn't materialise due to injury. So this is a player who does play international level as well, which you must add. So let us know what you think will happen with Edu Kayembe, but just a rumour that kind of came out of nowhere. And will be interesting to see what happens with Kieran McKenna at Ipswich because he's been linked with so many jobs at the minute and whether he'd be playing under him if he does join or another manager. We move on to some other Watford news and in terms of players that are going to be staying and being released. So we had it confirmed the 23rd of May, so that was 4 days ago, wasn't it, that Jeremy Ngakia has signed a new Watford deal, a 3-year contract extension. Sam, one that we think was, well, we kind of knew about before, didn't we? Andrew French had done some digging and the FA website had said that he'd signed a new contract. Did you understand this move from the club?
Yes and no. I'd be interested to see what the terms are because I think what could have happened is he might have got a longer deal on less wages, if that makes sense. So we can spread out a bit more what potentially we'd be owing him. But I think in terms of playing ability wise, look, the best, I think our friends Jordan and Tom on the Watford Buzz podcast said with Ngakia, the best form of ability is availability. And ultimately he doesn't have that just because it's got to the point where I actually feel quite sorry for Jeremy Ngakia. I don't think he's a bad player. I think he came into the club with loads of promise after really impressing at West Ham in the early parts of his career. But just because of injuries, I wonder as well if it's just a confidence thing as well, that he's protecting his body a bit when he does play because of how many injuries he's had. So I feel really, really sorry for Jeremy Ngakia. And because of that, if I was him, I'd have been looking to move, to be honest. Just try and, maybe go down to League One or another club somewhere else and just have a complete fresh start and hopefully stay injury free. But look, while he's here, obviously I'll back him. But I'd be interested to see the terms of that contract.
He must not be on massive money, I think, to agree to that deal. I kind of liken it to the Backman deal in the sense that we signed him on a long-term deal roughly, and you doubt they'd be on major money and one of the top owners at the football club. I think just going back to Troy, who we mentioned at the top of the show, I remember he made a comment about Ngakia, I forgot what podcast it was on, the fact that he hasn't really been coached properly. And what he means by that is he's a good lad. He's got ability, he's got potential, but unfortunately, he's never had a run. Probably the one that actually stands out is under Ivic. I think was the only time where I felt that he had like a regular, consistent run in the team. And that's just something with Jeremy Ngakia. But along those lines, Sam, in terms of the retain list, we also found out that Jake Livermore, Ben Hamer, and Ashley Fletcher, club legends, has left the football club and been released. Ashley Fletcher, the less said about him, the better. One of the most bizarre deals in Watford history, signing on a 5-year contract. The bigger debate is on Hamer and Livermore. Now, we did our keep, sell, or loan, so if you haven't checked it out, make sure you do. And we discussed whether we'd keep Hamer and keep Livermore. And we decided, Sam, right, that we'd keep Hamer, but we would have got rid of Livermore. So now both of them have gone. What do you make of that decision?
Wow, yeah. Not that it was expected. I think we all sort of knew deep down that both of them wouldn't be kept on. Neither of them were fancied by Tom Cleverley. And I suppose if you are taking a positive from it as well, is that it does seem that Tom Cleverley would have had a say in that and probably asked whether he wants Jake Livermore or Ben Hamer, and he probably said no to that, as evidenced through the way that neither of them played towards the end of the season. But look, like I say, I understand it, but both of them had quite good seasons. Interestingly, they didn't have a run in the team towards the end, but shouts arguably at times that they were our players of the season. Ben Hamer in the middle of the season was excellent. I think back to that Preston away game where even though we won 5-1, I'd argue that Ben Hamer was our best player that day. I think he prevented something like 3.2 goals going in with saves, including an amazing free kick save right at the end of the game. and Jake Livermore as well. That double away at QPR. Jacob, I know you said it right at the start, but you called it that he'd be good for us, and he turned out to be a good player, someone who seemed to be liked around the dressing room as well. So yeah, best of luck to both of them, but I can understand why they've both been released.
So Lou Orns, who has some really good sources around sort of what's happening at Watford, said in the comment section, Hamer wanted 2 years, Watford offered a 1-year deal and couldn't agree terms. That's a bit of an explanation of why that deal didn't materialise in the end. I would have liked to have kept Hamer around, to be honest. I think out of the two, I'm more gutted. It's probably stretched, but like more, I have more of an opinion on Hamer than Livermore, if that makes sense. I think Livermore, especially towards the back end, Sam, looked a little bit leggy, I thought, and not showed his age, but he did at the same time. Like, he's 34, he's a midfielder, he needs to be getting about, and at times it felt that if he doesn't have the legs around him, he struggled a bit. Whereas with Hamer, with a goalkeeper, it's less of an issue. And is Hamer 36? I want to say 35, 36. Yeah. So a guy who I think would have been quite handy to have around. But I understand if we've offered him only 1 year and he wanted a bit more security on 2 years, then I understand why that's the case. Greg says, I think Hamer looked like an aging keeper at Millwall away. Surin says, Hamer and Livermore, they did well for us. Wish them luck. And I think Livermore goes into that Carlos Sanchez, Ben Watson bracket. Ben Watson maybe not, but like Carlos Sanchez maybe a bit more, where you have like a more, an aging player who brings us some experience and some leadership in the middle, Sam. And as Dan says, Livermore was clearly a Val player. Luan says, to go off tangent slightly, what have you made of Clev speaking to Andrew about the style and shape next season, Sam? I don't know, did you catch this article?
Yeah, I saw it. I didn't read it. Like I said, at this point in the year, I've sort of switched off from Watford until the pre-season time ramps up again. But I have seen it's he's interested in the three at the back, isn't he? Formations.
Yeah, so basically the article from Andrew French speaking to Tom Cleverley was that Watford will predominantly play with a formation of a 3-4-2-1 or a 3-4-1-2 next season. And whilst there may be tweaks within the game, they're basically aiming to build a squad under Tom Cleverley that is suited to these two systems. So then Tom Cleverley touched on the recruitment process, Sam, and he said to Andrew, we're going to recruit towards a shape where we have 3 centre-backs, 2 number 6s, attacking wing-backs, and then at the top of the pitch, it will either be 2 number 10s and 1 number 9, or 1 number 10 and a pair of number 9s. Those comments.
No, I know. I think that just all just... it's good though that I feel like we've got a manager who, I know he's talking in the media and there might be a bit of a bluff as well. I don't think you can rule that out. Him speaking so openly about that. I think we'll be able to see a lot more in pre-season in terms of the way that we set up, how many strikers we go with, how many midfielders we go with, because like you say, I think some of our strikers benefit playing in a 2 with the ones that we've got. I think of Rajovic, for example, and some of our midfielders, we mentioned Kayembe there, I think benefit with other players around him as well. I think having the 3 at the back, though, I think is certainly helpful, because I think we saw the best of the likes of Pollock, Porteous and Wes, who even Sierralta at times in that 3, where they're a bit more protected and they're able to play to their strengths a bit more. They're not doing as many things which make them slightly uncomfortable on the ball as well. So, yeah, I do quite like it. But going back on the Ben Hamer thing, by the way, Jacob, it's interesting where this leaves the goalkeeper situation, doesn't it? Do you think Backman becomes number 2 next year and bring in a new number 1, or is it a straight number 2 that we bring in?
I think we need to bring in a keeper. I genuinely think that's one of the priorities this summer, to bring in another keeper. I think I'd move Backman to number 2 and then have Roberts as number 3. But I think now with the decision to get rid of Hamer, I think it does probably force Watford's hands, I think, whether it does or not, I think it should, that they should bring in a number 1, an out-and-out number 1. Now, I know we were linked with a goalkeeper recently from Portugal, if I remember correctly. I know there was this whole 10 million release clause, wasn't there, about Ricardo Velio, who plays for Udinese in Portugal. Now, that's one where Sevilla were interested and a South African club were also interested, according to the article. Now, I don't think that will mean we'll sign him for 10 million euros. And also, what we do have to add is, in Portugal, it's well known to have release clauses, i.e. Henrique Rouge, who had a 100 million euro release clause, and it was never, ever in a million years going to be activated. So I think that's something to bear in mind. And Wendover actually mentioned, Sam, just on the lines of a goalkeeper. Some good comments from Greg today, as always. Alex McCarthy to replace Ben Hamer, or bring McCarthy in as a number 2. He was outstanding. Yes, I agree. I thought he looked really commanding it yesterday.
Yeah, I thought it was great, McCarthy. I think he's going to go and look to play though. That's the thing.
He's available on a free, Sam.
He is available on a free. Do you know what? I wouldn't mind it, to be honest with you, but I think I'd also look to bring in someone a bit younger as well. But I think McCarthy is definitely going to be looking for first team football towards the end of his career now. So I don't think, if we can't guarantee him minutes, I don't think he'd come to us.
Speaking of players linked, Sam, Elam Ricardo was another one mentioned. I don't know if you've heard about this, but he's a 20-year-old midfielder. Just one to keep an eye on for Watford fans, because he's been linked in a few reports, and I don't know how reliable they are, but it sounds like Watford's sort of talks with Ricardo are developing, and he's a player who's, I think he's a central midfielder, defensive midfielder who can play in there. So just one to look out for. I haven't watched any of him, but it's just one to keep on the radar for Watford fans this summer. Jack says keeper and left back are the most important signings we need to make, in my opinion. Obviously, Dumbia comes in. Mark my words, Dumbia will be top scorer of the Championship. Ed, I want to know how much of football you've watched of Dumbia, but I really hope it does materialise. 18 years old. The last thing to mention, Sam, was just on Udinese, actually, who yesterday stayed up in Serie A via a Keenan Davis winner. Good finish as well. But I looked at the team yesterday, Sam, and obviously the new manager at Udinese is Fabio Cannavaro. They have Christian Cabasele, João Ferreira, Hassan Kamara, Roberto Pereira, Keenan Davis, Isaac Success. Have I missed anyone? Okoye's in goal. So my question is, away. I did actually watch the game yesterday. I didn't watch many Udinese games, but that was one of the few I watched. And I think Empoli stayed up, didn't they, in the last minute via a Mbai Niang winner as well in like the 95th minute. So it was unbelievable. It was one of the craziest days in Serie A history in terms of the relegation battle. But my question is it a good thing that Udinese have stayed up for Watford?
That's a difficult one as well, because I think it all hinges on the finances. Obviously, the Pozzos probably aren't as well off as they once were, with Udinese struggling, and obviously Watford in the Championship as well. But I have a feeling the Championship is still more lucrative than Serie A anyway. So I'm not sure how big of a difference it would have made if Udinese got relegated. Potentially, we could have seen a few more players come over to Watford. But I think if they had to pick one between playing in Serie B or in the Championship, I think probably would have chosen the Championship. But I mean, it's interesting that you have not all of them, obviously, but when you build a team of players who failed at Watford and or were part of failing teams, they go over to Udinese and they're part of a failing team. I wonder what that says about those players. Not singling anyone out, but I think it's an interesting one to look at in terms of the Pozzo recruitment sort of moving failure around, really.
Jack makes the point. The fact Udinese stayed up with one single home win all season.
Sounds like us.
Right, honestly. Yeah. I mean, is there something to be said about sort of a theme emerging there, Sam?
I think so, yeah. I mean, I wonder what it is about home games and Pozzo clubs, but no one can seem to win any at the moment. Like I say, players who failed at Watford are ultimately failing at Udinese now, and I think that's big alarm bells for Pozzo, and I think it's a reflection again that they've lost their way in football.
Luan says, looking forward to the meltdown when Kone joins Udinese for £10 million. Charlotte says, any news on Asprilla? Saw a highlights package on Watford's YouTube channel. Is that our idea of advertising? I believe it's because he's going to be playing at the Copa America for Colombia this summer. Yeah. So I think the one thing I'd say about Asprilla, I know some people have their criticism, Sam included. What I would say is he's the quality of the player, I don't think can be denied if he's getting in the Colombia squad from one of the one of the biggest tournaments in world football at this moment in time. And there's a strong chance that Asprilla is going to feature quite heavily. So something to consider there. One man I do want to mention from Udinese is Jordan Zamora. He came on yesterday. I think he'd be that left back that I think Jack said in the show about a goalkeeper and a left back. I think Jordan Zamora would be such a great pickup for us, especially what he did at Bournemouth. Sam, would you be in favour of that?
Definitely. I think Zamora would be a good one. I also really like Harrison Burrows at Peterborough as well. Seems that Peterborough have a few players that could get rated this summer. We mentioned Cipriano earlier in the show. I really like the Peterborough owner or the chairman. He's always really open with things as well. I think, did he mention a few years ago that Watford put in a bid for Tony or something like that? For Ivan Tony?
Yeah, Watford. He actually mentioned as well, going back to, he mentioned Tony. He also mentioned Hector Cipriano. And that was one way on deadline day in January. And it was one of the signings that Val had mentioned that he wanted to get over the line, but he didn't go for another option because he wanted Cipriano. So that might be one just to look out for maybe going forwards. Just finally, Sam, would you take a João Ferreira Martin swap deal from Fabian?
So Martins comes to us and Ferreira goes there.
Ferreira would come. Yeah.
It's all part of the same pot, isn't it? Probably, to be honest with you, but then we probably see them swap back in January as well. So I'd be interested. I'd give Martins. I think I said on the keep loan side, I'd give Martins another year. I think just to see. Hopefully he can. I hope everything's okay with him personally because he wasn't the same after that bereavement that he had. But hopefully, new season, clean slate under Tom Cleverley, we can see the best side of Mateus Martins again.
For sure. I think that's where we're going to leave it because Anthony says, what do we reckon happens to Ferreira now? New Ngakia contract indicates he's staying in Udinese. That's one. I'd take João Ferreira back. I thought I quite liked him.
You're always a big fan of him, weren't you?
I know. I don't know what it is. He's an incredibly handsome bloke. I don't know whether I just got sucked in by that and him playing for Watford. But I really liked him. I quite, out of the two, I mean, I'm not saying the bar was low with the Rouge, but him and Ferreira, I thought Ferreira was out because he was a free transfer, wasn't he? I think so.
Yeah. Or no, it was Ferreira was between Ferreira and the Rouge. Ferreira was a couple of million. I think that signing took up our whole January budget, which is why Bilic was fuming because we basically couldn't sign anyone because we signed João Ferreira.
Yes, got you. Yeah. And want to mention is Festi Ebosele, who's been out of the picture with Cannavaro. So a couple of players with Championship nous who could be potentially making a move to Hertfordshire this summer. Sam, anything else we missed? Anything else you want to mention?
Honestly, I can't think. To be honest with you, I'm enjoying the Watford break at the moment.
The views today, by the way. The views today. I know we haven't done. If you'd like to see more of these, leave a like on the video. Firstly, turn your notification bell because it's going to be pretty random. I think in terms of the uploads this summer. So if we have some news like we do with Kayembe or some other news, we'll just pop up. So if you turn your notification bell on, you'll know when we're going live, even if it's like a late scheduled stream. And subscribe, obviously.
Yeah, I actually do have one more thing. I am deeply disappointed of the lack of Hibs away in pre-season. Absolutely gutted. I was buzzing for it. Would have been a nice weekend away in Scotland, but we're going to have to settle for Boreham Wood and Stevenage for the billionth time. So that is disappointing.
Yeah, there's a guy at work I work with who's a Wickham fan, and he did send through going, "Oh, mate, it's going to be good." And I was like, "Do you know what? That's a plus point." Apart from that, it's one of the most disappointing pre-season schedules I think I can remember in a long time. We played Stevenage for the 500th bloody time. Do
you know what? I thought last season I was excited because I thought we'd escape Stevenage in pre-season. Lo and behold, we draw them in the first round of the Carabao Cup. We just can't escape Stevenage, can we? I know. I think them managed by. I think has Alex Ravel got the job there now? I think, or he's about to be appointed since Steve Evans went back to Rotherham. So
yes.
Yeah.
Just a bit. Yeah. Reading, Brentford. What on earth? Didcot, Yateley, winner. Caroline, keep coming, lads. Thanks so much to everyone who watched today. Really do appreciate it. What a nice, pleasant Watford chat. Jack says incredible views for an early kickoff, to be fair. Absolutely. Half an hour video. I hope you enjoyed it. Ed also says, can you do a transfer window video of who you want to sign? We are going to do the video we did last year, which is 5 players we think Watford should sign this summer. So that's one to keep an eye out for as well. And I think that's where we'll leave it. Thanks so much.
Thanks, David Brent from Wendover.
Goodness me. Goodness me. Nice one. Thanks so much, guys. Take care of yourselves, and we will see you next time. Have a great rest of your bank holiday. You want? Oh, end it.